And we are back here for another video today. Today we are looking at the NC State Wolfpack and Dave Doran's 14th year at the head coaching position for North Carolina State, seeing if they can improve on an 8-5 year last year. CJ Bailey, one of the more talented quarterbacks in the ACC, coming back for another year, looking to improve on last season. The loss of Hollywood Smothers is going to be tough, but you do bring back another good running back in Jaden Scott. Let's get into today's video. Shout out to one of my friends that's a big NC State fan. I am sure he will be watching this video and probably angry at me that I don't pick them to go 12-0. So before we get into it, make sure that you hit that subscribe button down below. Like the video if you enjoy it. Comment all your thoughts and opinions down below as well. Let me know what you think NC State's record will be. What do you think they will do? Do you think that they're going to be 12-0, 0-12 if you're a North Carolina fan, and anything in between? So let's get into today's video. So looking at the first game of the year, it is a road game against Virginia. And this is a true road game, as I just put out my Virginia preview about a week ago. A little over a week ago, I think. And I got told this game is no longer in Brazil. It is a game that is being played in Virginia. So it is a road game, a true road game against Virginia. I did think that with it being in Brazil favored NC State a little bit more because CJ Bailey is still there. Dave Doran brings back a lot of his pieces. Defensively, they have a lot of pieces to work with. But let's be honest. With Doran, I trust the defense to be good on a consistent level, even though last year it was a little bit more of a different game, like averaging 31 points a game given up in conference play was a lot, but also something that you got to work on. 53 points given up to Pitt, 36 given up to Georgia Tech, but you did win that game. 41 given up to Miami. But then the end of the year, a little bit better, 11 points, 19 points. So we'll see. It was a rougher defense, so maybe getting rid of some of those pieces will help it. Only 2 starters from the defense last year will be returning this year. But most importantly, the offense is returning. Like I said, Jaden Scott's back at running back, had 4 touchdowns last year, little over 500 yards. And 5.5 yards a carry. Did lose Hollywood Smothers, who is another fantastic back, just under 1,000 yards for him. So that is going to be a big loss. And then you do lose a lot of your receiving threats, pretty much all of them. So that is going to be a key factor of what does this wide receiver room look like? Are they good? You do also, I will say, bring enough pieces back on the offensive line that I'm excited about to see what they do. To see if there's some consistency and if that plays well. But going into that Virginia game, like I said, I think that this is going to be a win. I may change my mind about this as we get closer to the game because it is just such a toss-up game in my opinion. I could really see either team winning this, but with it being a road game against Virginia, we will see what happens at the end of the day. Then you have a bye week, and then you play Richmond. Easy win here, no problems. FCS school, you'll win. No problems there. Then you play a road game against Vanderbilt, and this is where I think you do get your first loss of the season. Vanderbilt is just a better, more talented team overall. I believe these 2 teams did play. No, they did not. It was Tennessee. I was mixing up with Tennessee, but a few years ago, NC State played Tennessee a couple of years ago, in fact. Lost 51-10. And I just think the difference between the SEC and the ACC is pretty big right now. So therefore, I am picking Vanderbilt, even though you're going to have, I think Blaise Berkowitz is going to be the starting quarterback, or at least that's what On3 said, and they're a pretty trusted organization, that it doesn't look like it's going to be Jared Curtis, the freshman 5-star. But I could see Curtis playing later on in the season, but week 3, I don't know, probably not. No, this would be even week 2. No, this would be week 3. Sorry. Took me a second. And then a home game against App State is next up on the schedule. I think this will be a win. Always an interesting one to play an in-state rival, especially a team as good as App State. This is not a bad team. This is an App State team that should be honestly a very good team overall this year, but they did lose a lot of their pieces last year. That I could see some possible blowout territory in the second half, but I think the first half keeps it close. Then you got a home game against Louisville. I went back and forth on this game. I, again, think that this one is also close like the Virginia game, but I'm going to go with NC State, going on purely the fact that Louisville is going to be playing on the road, that this game is at home for NC State, but I could very well see Louisville winning this game, so I could be wrong. Then a home game against Wake Forest. I had this as a win. I think that Wake Forest is a team that, honestly, I did not remember going 9-4 last year. And to be frankly honest, I followed college football way less last year than I normally do, just with following my own program. I go to Anderson, and I was following our football team a whole lot more than I was following other football teams. But with that being said, I think that Wake Forest was such a blip that I do think they're going to take a step back here in season number 2 under Coach Dickert. And with that being said, I think that that's where this win comes from. I think that the team, you lost your starting quarterback and Robbie Ashford, who is actually a surprise in terms of how successful he was. I was expecting it to be horrible, which is part of the reason why I was so surprised by the 9-4 record come into the season. But yeah, I think that's going to be a win. Then a bye week and a road game against Stanford. What I will say with this being said, I'm going to have this game as a loss. And I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because Stanford is a worse team than Louisville. They're a worse team than Virginia. But it's one of those things that it's just, I don't know. It's just a feeling that I think Stanford is going to come out and win this type of game against NC State. Kind of with NC State only having one loss on the season, they're flying high. They're 5-1 going into the bye week. I think they may get taken down a step or two by a game like this against Stanford. I could see them winning this game. If you want to say they win this game and lose to Louisville, that's fine with me. I think that's also reasonable. But I don't know. I like where Stanford could be at middle of the season with some development. I think that they have some stars that could develop. It's going to be tough. I'm going to have to follow this program, see how they do in the long term. But I have that as a loss. Coming all the way back cross country, you're going to have a team follow you in Cal. I think that this is a win against Cal. I think that you get it back on the right schedule, find a way to clinch bowl eligibility, find a way to get that 5th win of the season. And with that, getting a W, nice and easy there. So I have that as a win. So heading on to the next game is a home game against Duke. I think that Duke is a very tough team to play. They're a tough team. Manny Diaz has done great work at Duke in his first season, and I think even with Cooper Barkett and Darian Mensah leaving to go to Miami this season, I still think Manny Diaz got the kind of short end of the stick with Miami in both scenarios with all the stuff that went on with Mensah. But honestly, I think that he is a better head coach than most people think he is, and therefore I think that Duke gets a surprise upset win here over NC State, gets the win there. Then a home game against Syracuse, and I think that they once again lose, and here's my reasoning why. A lot of people are down on Syracuse. I'm very high on Syracuse, actually. I have not done my Syracuse prediction, so I'm spoiling it for whoever watches both of these predictions. But I'm very, very high on Syracuse. I think that Syracuse with Steve Angeli was – I think people forget how good Syracuse looked, even against a team like Tennessee in those first few weeks, that I think a 8-4 Syracuse team is not out of the question this year. Because look at the first year under Dino Babers. He had Kyle McCord. He had the quarterback that he wanted, and they had a good season. They had a tough season last year because you had Steve Angeli get hurt. And the LSU transfer behind him was just not very good, that I'm blanking on his name. But he was not very good. Steve Angeli is a good quarterback in a good situation. I think that's right where he wants to be. And I believe that Steve Angeli is not a bad quarterback. Remember, in this battle, he transferred out because he was not that far out of the competition against CJ Carr and against Kenny Minchey. The problem is that if Steve Angeli lost the job and then transferred out in the fall, then he wouldn't have really gotten to play college football. And I'm going to be cheering for Syracuse with a team like that. But heading into the next game, Florida State, I have this as a win. I think that they get the W here against Florida State on the road. I think that Florida State will have fired Mark Norvell at this point. I don't think Florida State's going to be a good team this year, and I think NC State's consistency with CJ Bailey is going to be what helps them out here. This is where Bailey could really use his legs in a game like this. I think his legs last year weren't as effective as I expected them to be, but I think they will be more effective this year. Finally, to close it out, the rivalry weekend of the flag waving. I'm sure that will happen again. That was 2 years ago against North Carolina. But I think that they continue their winning streak against North Carolina. That's been at least, I think, 6 years or something, 7 years or something like that, which is crazy because it used to be that these teams were not that far apart. But I think Bill Belichick is going to get fired at the end of the season again. So that's going to wrap up today's video. Hit one of the 2 videos down below and the subscribe button up here. Help me reach my goal of 6,600 subscribers by the end of July. As always, see you next time. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.